Why?
So,
Let me ask why. Why does the giver get the better end
why
of
does the
it?
giver get the better end of the deal? I guess because that's where the peace comes from. Something happens when you transcend your instinct, which tells you to survive, right? The instinct comes primarily from the reptile brain, and it tells us to survive at all costs. And that encourages this materialistic society to develop. And yet we also have different parts of our brain that let us choose not to give into these instincts. And when you choose to do that, when you're hungry but you choose to give your last bit of food to another, for example, or when you really want a cup of coffee and you give your last $2 to a home free person.
And you've ever done that?
Yes, I have, frequently. Something happens, and I don't claim to know exactly what or how, but you tap into a different level of being that brings complete joy. And it's the selflessness factor. And that's when I realized that my giving allows me to attain complete peace, especially when it's very selfless or self-sacrificial. And if I'm aware of that, that means that when I receive from others, when I'm hungry and they say, "Can I please give you a muffin or a salad?" that then I'm aware in that moment that I am giving them the opportunity to feel that peace as a selfless giver. I'm not going to give them anything back. I'm going to be wandering around to the next town probably in the next moment, so that it is a selfless deed they're doing. And I know that even though I'm getting a muffin, which is nice because I'm hungry, the bigger benefit is I'm giving them the chance to experience the peace, the joy and calm that comes from selflessly giving to another being. And then the two become one, because then that gift becomes a receiving again, and I get that peace back, and it's kind of hard to explain, but that's where this peace comes from, many times, yeah.
Now, is peace our most important virtue?
That's a good question. Words are words are kind of weak. So, is peace different from love? Is love different from wisdom? I think love is our biggest virtue, and I think love is made up of a number of virtues. Peace for me is more of a state of being, and maybe a virtue is more of a concept that you would then actualize to get to that state of being.
I would think peace also, as your definition of state of being, refers to what's going on in the body.
I guess you're right, yeah, because we are in a body, and the goal is to maximize this experience, this amazing gift that we've been given, a conscious life in a physical body. And so I guess if peace, by the definition we've talked about, is that calm joy where you are at one with your life in that moment, you are being a true human being. And that would be the highest virtue, yeah.
There's I think it's a Chinese proverb that says, a man sitting alone in his room with the right thoughts can be heard for 1,000 miles.
Nice.
And so if we are
That's
at
nice.
peace, our peace radiates outward.
I've experienced the truth of that, and not just from me to others, but from others to myself, that when people are at peace, maybe it's because of limbic resonance, the fact that we do communicate on levels a lot more deeply than just the verbal, as conscious mammals. I don't know what it is, but you can feel calm and peace yourself when in the presence of another who is at peace. I think there was even a study done showing that when others came into the presence of a guru or someone at peace, that their serotonin levels automatically elevate.
Oh, I can just think of a baby.
Great example.
Holding a baby, it's like your whole state changes.
Perfect, exactly.
Yeah. Now, you and I have exchanged emails, and you sign your emails resolutely in action, engendered in love, and always, spelled ALLWAYS, one word, with wonder.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
First time I've ever been asked that question. A lot of the ways I constructed my name and my emails conclusion, many of the ways I correspond with people are not just for them, but they're for me, to keep reminding myself of my path.
And what is the action that you're resolute in?
Remaining true and consciously aware in as many moments as possible of my inner self, my true self, my conscience, as opposed to only the ego self, which would be concerned with my comfort and my pleasure and less pain for me. And I started that journey really consciously about 8 years ago, and I think the ending to this email started around that time too, around 2000, I'm pretty sure. And so that's where the resolutely in action came. It just reminds me, okay, you're conscious now. Be as conscious as possible. And of course, engendered in love, is relatively self-explanatory. Love, there is no way to love. Love is the way. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And that if you are focused on love, which is a overused term, which basically means you're focused on others' well-being ahead of your own. Love. Yeah, it's
unconditional.
It's a giving-oriented existence or a sharing-oriented existence as opposed to a self-centered existence.
It's like a parent loves a child, do anything
as
for
pure,
that child.
Exactly, really, really purely, which is why I have it all in capitals. And then always with wonder, I honor the very first of the virtues that I ever came into contact with when I was waking up to this, what I humbly call a higher awareness, at least for my own being. And I became a wonder-awarer, if you would, of just how special each moment was. That if I had met someone 100 times before, they were just as amazing that time as the first time I had met them. And a blade of grass is amazing. I don't go around looking at every blade of grass because I like my life to be productive in other ways. But I like to remind myself with this conclusion in my email that it can start and end with wonder, which is kind of tied to gratitude. That this life is amazing. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. You are allowed to pause and get rid of your thoughts of familiarity and say, this is a special moment, and I cherish it, and what am I going to do with it now? And this helps me remember that. And thank you for asking that question so that I can answer for myself.
Well, your wonder and how you cherish life reminds me of Albert Schweitzer, Dr. Albert Schweitzer.
That's a compliment.
Who wrote a book, Out of My Life, My Thought, and in it he says there's not enough reverence for life. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is great reverence for life. And when we have reverence for life, we remain at peace.
We really do. And I'm not saying I do it all the time. I'm walking around in this machine like everybody else, and I'm often find myself slipping into worry or angst or fear. And I just catch myself and take a deep breath as often as possible and say, okay, you are at one with your surroundings, and life is amazing, and you can do good now. Let's look around and see where you can do some good. And then peace returns. And I move on.
I think you may have hit on something. It's just the stress and strain of the day.
Difficult.
It causes some unsettling emotion like worry or fear, etc., and that we have to cleanse our soul and spirit just like we have to clean our physical body.
Amen to that. And the beauty of it, this message that I've learned, at least for my life, that might be a tool for others, I hope it is that it doesn't have to be a process. You don't have to practice and practice and practice to do this. That it really takes a quarter of a second to turn off your worries and your thoughts. Just take a quarter of a second in any moment when you're really feeling stressed or worried or in fear or angry or whatever, and have your own personal mantra about remembering that this is a special moment and that it's not just about satisfying personal cravings or muting personal fears, but it's about doing good for others. And when you make that shift in that quarter of a second, you do attain peace. And you might lose it again, but you can always get it back.